Campers, it's me, Ari Lehman, the first Jason Voorhees. From Friday the 13th, I'm here with AJ, and he's got the juiciest slice ready for you. It's dripping with blood. Jason never dies.
What makes a horror film kill memorable, terrific, even in some way profound or poignant? Let's explore. Thanks for checking this out. If anything about it trips your fancy, please like, subscribe, and share.
Yes.
Without further ado,
I'm calling from New York City. I'd like to speak to the Silver Creek Chief of Police or Sheriff.
Which one of them do you want?
Whichever one's not busy.
the lady is in luck.
Well, I'm pretty sure they're both not busy, Miss Sindel, since they're both me.
As it turns out, she's in contact with one of the area's biggest movers and shakers.
I also happen to be president of the Policemen's Benefit Association, chairman of the Patrolmen's Retirement Fund.
Being as how his reach goes way beyond his law enforcement authority, like into serious local business.
And if you need a good fishing guide, you could do a lot worse.
With quaint charm aplenty, he makes himself totally available.
Call me Buster. Everybody does. What can I do for you?
It would seem a famous author, one Paul Sheridan, has seemingly fallen off the face of the earth, and since he's a big moneymaker,
Well, everybody sure likes those misery books.
that's a problem. It also means that the tedium in Sheriff Buster's life is not only broken, but banished altogether.
We got a phone call. Busy morning.
Yeah, work.
Since he, blessedly, now has something to do, which includes dropping in on the resort where the author was last seen.
There's nothing unusual about Mr. Sheldon's leaving, Buster.
No runaround, he gets straightforward answers and no leads, and is sent on his way with a platitude.
I sure hope nothing's happened to him.
So do I.
Soon thereafter, Sheriff Buster and his dedicated deputy, and naughty-minded wife, don't let her age fool you, search the route Paul Sheridan drove.
Well, it sure is fun.
One would like to get up to a little midday canoodling, also known as afternoon delight. While the other wants to stay focused on the business at hand.
Virginia, when you're in this car, you're not my wife, you're my deputy.
Virginia understands his position, but stands firmly by her own, proving women really do reach their sexual prime later in life.
Well, his deputy'd rather be home under the covers with the sheriff.
Buster spies a possible clue that needs to be checked out.
Stop.
What?
Stop!
What?
What he sees could indicate something, nor nothing at all.
See that broken limb?
Could have been the weight of the snow.
Buster comes so very close to discovering Sheldon's crashed out car, but Winter is a guileless enemy.
Yeah.
The snow an immutable barricade that gives no quarter for anyone, even a respected local. The deep accumulation proves unaccommodating, stopping him cold.
Need some help?
Buster seems to have an instinct, but being half buried in frozen death is enough to call off further searching today.
No, I'm enjoying myself! Thank you!
Little does he know that someone with all the answers he seeks coincidentally happens to go by. That was Annie Wilkes, a local with a dark past who used to be a nurse. A bit of a loon, she's currently holding Paul Sheridan against his will, but only her and Paul know that.
There's no point in coming up here now. Everything that can be done is.
Short on leads, Buster has to deal with having no answers. Never fun.
Yes, we're working close with the state police and the FBI's been informed.
Virginia has been seeing about other loose ends.
According to the check on Sheldon's credit charges, there's nothing after the Silver Creek.
No credit use? Well, he's dead. With zero trace of Paul Sheldon living his life elsewhere, and instinct gnawing at him, Buster, clearly a principled man, won't wait until spring to double check. Pay dirt. Now they know the missing author definitely drove off the road. Naturally, conclusions are drawn.
The presumption must now be that Paul Sheldon is dead.
With evidence to the contrary, doubt proves as thick as the snow.
You don't think he's dead, do you?
It turns out that Virginia has an active imagination concerning Buster's activities.
He never tells me anything anymore. He's probably out having an affair somewhere.
Instead of receipts from an illicit affair, he bears a pile of novels.
Well, whoever she is, she sure likes to read a lot.
Buster's response to such an accusation speaks to a truth for many hard-working men.
Virginia, I'm flattered that you think I've got that much energy.
And then gives insight into his line of reasoning.
I figured that if I can't find Paul Sheldon, at least I can find out what he wrote about.
Virginia doesn't see the method to the madness, and has no trouble making that clear.
What do you expect to find? A story about a guy who drove his car off a cliff in a snowstorm?
Buster seems to take her sardonic nature with a grain of salt. The grain of salt is also bitter.
You see, it's just that kind of sarcasm that's given our marriage real spice.
The thing is that clues don't exist in a vacuum. They can come from all directions.
There isn't justice higher than that of man.
This bit of writing resonates, perhaps triggering a memory to slowly float up until it can surface later.
I will be judged by him.
As luck would have it, Annie Wilkes gives him a reason for her to be on his mind. And that causes a connection to be made. It would seem that when she was on trial for the murders of some patients under her care, Annie used that quote. This gets Buster thinking, and he goes to the most logical place to get some answers.
Do you have any new Paul Sheldon books?
The local 5 and dime.
Well, we had a batch. Sold them all out in 3 days.
That's not being facetious. People's purchasing history can reveal a lot, which is why advertisers buy such info, mined from wherever it can be found online.
You wouldn't happen to know if Miss Wilkes bought one of them, would you?
Here, it confirms an important fact about Annie.
Every time that fella writes a new book, she has me set aside the first copy.
She's a really big fan of Paul Sheldon. Buster inquires about other purchases, and it turns out she's been buying paper. What kind of paper?
Typing kind.
Well, that kind. Nothing odd about that.
Buster's uncomfortable suspicion leads him to head out to Annie's homestead for a little wellness check. This might be a lesson that your fandom can dime you out. Well, if Michael Berryman ever goes missing, I know nothing. Paul has all of 3 seconds to have hope before his captor puts a stop to that. Annie unceremoniously tosses her ward in the basement so she can hop to and do her best to control the narrative.
Oh, my.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to startle you, but you didn't give me a chance to knock.
The lady of the house seems perfectly welcoming, if a little tense. But the sheriff did show up at her door out of the blue, so that could explain it. Buster seems to want to gauge her reaction to a specific inquiry.
I was wondering, do you happen to know anything about Paul Sheldon?
As his #1 fan, Annie can spew an endless stream of factoids, and soon confesses to a social faux pas.
Here I am, prattling on, and my manners have just flown away. I haven't invited you in. Please.
Thank you.
In a world with a spectrum of swine from teacup pigs to razorbacks, Annie is a razorback, and hers is a den, better not to enter unprepared.
Mind if I take a look around?
Of course not.
Boy, does she do a good job of putting on a guise to trick Buster. After all, she is a skilled manipulator, able to play into her own presumed, I'll call it her oddness.
That accident almost killed me, too. I prayed when I heard the news.
Accounting for everything as if she's casually explaining her sad little world, rather than selling lies.
God told me, since I was his #1 fan, that I should make up news stories as if I was Paul Sheldon.
She offers the whole song and dance, trying to create the sort of plausible deniability that allays suspicion.
And I turned the guest bedroom into a writing studio. Would you like to see it?
Sure.
A clever detail. She claims that despite her best efforts, she just can't emulate the greatness of Paul Sheldon's writing.
Well, maybe it takes a while to get the hang of it.
She offers cocoa, and he continues his search.
Here you are.
Despite the intense pressure she is under, it would seem that Annie succeeded.
Well, thanks, Miss Wilkes, but I don't want to take up any more of your time.
Either still slightly suspicious, or merely feeling sorry for the woman living in lonely isolation, Buster leaves on a kind note.
Well, if you wouldn't mind, perhaps I could pay you another visit sometime.
I'd be delighted now that you know the way.
Seemingly avoiding the Razorback's wrath, he makes to depart, and that seems to end it. With Paul's chances of obtaining help next to zero, he manages to make a proper ruckus. With reasonable suspicion something is up,
Miss Wilkes?
Buster lets himself back in and proceeds down the hall.
Miss Wilkes, are you all right?
It would seem fools rush in where wiser men fear to tread.
Here! Here! I'm down here!
This is when he should be locating and securing his suspect.
Down here!
Buster solves the mystery, but at a steep cost.
Mr. Sheldon?
Well, never test a vindictive woman, I guess. She'll shoot you right in the back to get her way, without a second thought. Some exits are extraordinary because they reveal how the sanctity of life can be shattered out of nowhere, and for motives only pertinent to the perpetrator, who in one brazen act was willing to initiate a self-destruct sequence.
You and I were meant to be together forever. But now our time in this world must end.
And why? To fulfill her own twisted desire to hold her favorite author in captivity until she decided how the matter concluded. Once a lawman is killed, that's one of those bells that can't be unrung. Rather than submit on terms that weren't her own, Annie determined to do anything to get her way, even shoot someone in the back, which in these circumstances was the height of dastardliness.
Don't feel bad, Paul.
She could have at least had the decency to get his attention, so that he turned around. She could have faced her victim, and let him face his killer, but she was a psychopath, so even the tiniest fair play was too much for her.
What? No!
Or was she just a really misunderstood fan, trying her damnedest, darndest, best, to save the niftiest gothic romance series ever? We'll be exploring that in an upcoming episode of Outstanding Outros.
God's sake!
It's for the best.
Annie, please!
For anyone with a fatalistic view of life, who sees destiny in every decision and action, Sheriff Buster's death has to rate as an existential nightmare. The notion he lived his whole life, destined to be shot in the back, a heartbreaking exclamation point after a slow-paced, leisurely life, free of all the big city violence. And not by some outsider who blew in bringing chaos, but a feisty local with a dark history. Success doesn't need to announce itself, and by many metrics, Buster was living the dream, off protecting his little hamlet with his lady by his side. Few problems, little threat, and for it, the cosmic trickster smote him. The film used him to toy with the audience, the way a cat toys with a mouse, making him a likable reservoir of hope, only to kill him off without fanfare.
Are you kidding?
A character that represented the best of aging, the earned wisdom, the measured and patient approach, the kindness and devotion to the human spirit. Buster was a far cry from a stereotype, or a type at all. He came across as competent in that no-nonsense way of a man who quietly did the right thing because it was the right thing to do.
Right. Right.
Although not entirely unexpected, the way the kill played out maximized on shock in a way that feels personal, packing a solid punch and dashing hope that Paul's torment was over and Buster would be going home to Virginia. Did he mention his forthcoming retirement somewhere? As old as he was, I suppose it was easy to assume he was in the twilight of his career, condemning him, like every other movie lawman nearing retirement, to an ironic demise.
Yep, that stands up to scrutiny.
Buster seemed to represent more than the everyman, emerging as something of the film's soul, a symbol of everything good about small towns. He was the kind of homespun guy you want manning the gates. At all times he hewed in the direction of kindness, valiance, and justice. So, the film trades in the common horror theme that life isn't fair, that the good aren't rewarded for their virtue, that doing the right thing means nothing in the face of reality, that no obvious scales remain balanced.
The buffoonery is endless.
Buster was so persistent that he not only connected the dots, he found the dots to connect. In a just world, his reward wouldn't have been a hole through the back. In this way, Buster was denied direct heroism. Sure, him going missing would have eventually brought others to Annie's door, but in the meantime, Paul could have been killed 10 times over. Capturing brilliantly how one bad decision can make all the difference, there was nothing poetic about what killing Buster revealed. It was cold, almost clinical, and fitting, only in so much as it was very in line with how trespassing is addressed in rural areas.
Oh, Lord.
Annie was calm, deliberate, matter-of-fact, and collateral damage meant nothing to her. There was no standoff, no debate, no trying to perform damage control. Once her little world was threatened, she immediately resorted to the most drastic means, making Buster's curiosity and investigative drive his undoing. Why did solving the case signal his premature death? Underestimating the dangerousness of Annie was his real folly, even if she was technically acquitted of killing babies. There was probably good reason for the suspicion, and it would seem she got away with it, a huge miscarriage of justice. Thus, Buster knew her reputation, and yet continually turned his back on Annie, in some way dismissing her as a danger, even as she seethed when out of his sight. This could be a jab at small-town complacency, even a hint at deeply ingrained misogyny, not the dangerous to women on the face of it sort, the kind that assumes women incapable of certain kinds of acts. This sort of bias proved costly, sort of a backhanded compliment, but the ladies are as capable of violence as the fellas, even if statistically less predisposed. Once Buster was killed, so was his storyline. This means there's no wrap-up for his widow, no coda explaining any aftermath to his tale. This choice aligns with the underlying coldness that suffuses the film. From the winter setting to the remote Paul Sheldon, from the never-ending snow to Annie's dark side, there are layers to the chill. Isolation, even self-imposed, lends to cabin fever, and Buster found his way into a situation with two people losing their marbles in their own ways. Rather than yell,
Come here!
maybe it would have better behooved Paul to yell get help. But at that point, the imprisoned author wanted the validation of being seen by someone other than his captor, so don't try to throw any reason at his choices. He of everyone knew how dangerous Annie had gotten.
It was bound to happen sooner or later.
Dangerous enough that one-aged gentleman without the proper preparedness had little chance against her. No more savoring his golden years for him. Life doesn't play favorites, and old Buster didn't have plot armor just because he was a grandfatherly good guy who pursued every lead until he found Paul. An interloper of the highest order, he dared to poke his nose into a very private matter. When due diligence pays off, it can be a killer. Buster maybe deserved a more dignified death, but he crossed paths with a woman who took advantage of all his old-school misimpressions to allow him to bumble into danger. She didn't even try to deter him with another lie.
I best be going.
Well, I've about reached the end of the rope, so I won't leave you dangling. Thanks for enduring my ravings. Please share any refutations, opinions, accusations, japes, or other ideas in the comments below. And please join me for whatever I'm up to next time. Bye now!
Bye, creepy man! Keep it creepy!
He's a weird guy.
Goodbye!
That's the juiciest slice. Yeah, not.